we need to talk about a deeply uncomfortable topic in democratic societies. Not all opinions are equally valid when it comes to technical subjects. The idea that everyone's voice matters equally is foundational to democracy, but it doesn't mean a random person's opinion about immunology carries the same weight as an immunologist's professional assessment. Let me explain why expertise matters without descending into elitism or authoritarianism. Expertise develops through decades of specialized training and experience. An immunologist has spent years in undergraduate science education, then graduate school mastering research methods, then postdoctoral training, then years of active research and peer interaction. They've read thousands of papers, conducted experiments, had their work scrutinized by colleagues, and developed deep familiarity with their field's complexity and nuance. This specialized knowledge cannot be replicated through internet research, no matter how many hours someone spends on Google. Reading articles about immunology is not the same as understanding immunology at the level required to evaluate novel research claims. It's like the difference between watching cooking shows and being a professional chef, or reading about surgery and being a surgeon. When an immunologist evaluates vaccine safety, they bring expertise that includes understanding immune system complexity, familiarity with decades of research literature, ability to evaluate study methodology and statistical analyses, and recognition of nuance invisible to non-experts. This doesn't make them infallible, but it makes their assessment far more reliable than a layperson's opinion formed from social media posts and blog articles. Here's where this becomes problematic in public discourse: false equivalence. When media present both sides of vaccine safety as if they're equally credible, showing a clip from an immunologist followed by a clip from a celebrity or activist with no relevant expertise, it creates the false impression of legitimate scientific controversy. One side represents overwhelming expert consensus built on massive evidence. The other represents fringe minority opinion, often contradicting basic science. The internet has created what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect on steroids. People gain superficial exposure to complex topics through online research and dramatically overestimate their understanding. They don't know enough to recognize what they don't know. A few hours of reading makes them feel competent to challenge people who've spent careers studying these questions. But here's the balance we need to strike. Respecting expertise doesn't mean blind deference to authority. Experts can be wrong. Scientific consensus does change. And marginalized voices have historically been dismissed by establishment experts, sometimes with terrible consequences. The question is how to maintain appropriate skepticism without descending into anti-intellectual rejection of all expertise. You can identify genuine expertise through verifiable markers. What are the person's actual credentials in the specific field they're discussing? Where have they published their research? What do other experts in their field say about their work? Are they recognized by professional organizations and peers? Or are they speaking outside their area of expertise? Or do they lack credentials in the relevant field entirely? Be especially wary of credentialed people speaking outside their expertise. A doctor specializing in dermatology isn't necessarily qualified to make definitive claims about vaccine immunology. A PhD in engineering doesn't make someone an epidemiologist. Credentials in one field don't automatically transfer to others. When scientific consensus changes, it happens through accumulation of evidence in peer-reviewed research, not through social media campaigns or YouTube videos. Paradigm shifts in science are rare and require extraordinary evidence. The heliocentric model replaced geocentrism through overwhelming observational evidence. Germ theory replaced miasma theory through rigorous experiments. These weren't fringe voices shouting louder. They were researchers building undeniable evidence. The difficult truth is that on highly technical questions, expert opinion should carry more weight than lay opinion. That's not authoritarianism or elitism. It's recognizing that expertise exists and matters. You wouldn't ignore an engineer's advice about whether a bridge is structurally sound in favor of your own opinion based on looking at it. The same principle applies to complex medical and scientific questions. But we can maintain this while also questioning motives, demanding transparency, insisting on accessible communication, and recognizing when expert consensus might be influenced by factors beyond evidence. Trusting expertise doesn't mean trusting blindly. It means appropriately weighting different sources of information based on demonstrated competence.